And good morning.
Roll 'em.
It is a sunny day over here in Texas. How's the weather over there?
It's sunny. Yeah, it's
Huh?
California. We're getting ready for rain. It's supposed to rain over Christmas, which
Gotcha.
will be a bummer, but
Gotcha.
you know.
Yeah, the weather here is weird. Like it was really cold last week. Now it's like sunny, a bit nippy, but not like really cold.
Uh-huh.
And so there's that. And today is actually my birthday.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Um I upgraded to level 38. That's how I'm
Okay.
calling it now. Yeah.
All right. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Uh,
Oh, I'll be
good
nice to you
morning.
today, just for your birthday.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. Don't be too nice though. I gotta stay humble.
that's right.
Yeah, so like I am working today, but just with the season and everything, like thank you. We have a big job. We have multiple jobs coming up in the new year, so I have to just prep for that. But it's at the point now where I've sent all the emails I can send. I've done everything I can do. Now it's just it's just wait. So
All right.
yeah. All right, we'll get started. We have some viewers. AC Cruises in. All righty. So good morning, everyone. All right, now we're down to 0 viewers. Let me guess, Michael's taking his time.
Oh, yeah, usually.
All right, we'll go ahead and get into it. So let me just get this video playing, and yeah, we'll talk about it.
Chevron, one of the world's largest multinational energy corporations with a market capitalization of approximately $300 billion. It ranks among the top 5 oil and gas companies globally alongside ExxonMobil and Saudi Aramco and Shell and BP. Founded in San Francisco in 1879, the company has long been a staple of California industry. That is, until now. Just months ago, Chevron announced they were moving their headquarters to Houston, Texas, a move that had many asking why. Why leave the Golden State that's been your home for over 140 years? Their CEO, Mike Wirth, was blunt. It's because California sucks. Gavin Newsom's California is a disaster. It's simply too tough a place to do business. The taxes, the regulations, they're utterly out of control. Astonishingly, things are so bad, they can't even pay their 6-figure engineers enough to make them want to live there anymore. And it's not just Chevron. Valero, which supplies a substantial portion of California's fuel, they've announced that they too are leaving the state. They plan on closing their Benicia refinery by April of 2026, which economists say will have a stunning impact on the state's gas supply. If you thought prices were high in California now, just wait until the summer of next year. The city of Benicia alone is losing 20% of their entire budget. And the state is so freaked out about the skyrocketing gas prices that they offered to help subsidize the company to offset the high cost of doing business. But of Valero executives, they were like, forget you. They were not interested in the least in going into business with the environmental wackos in Sacramento. In fact, they're willing to take a $1 billion loss just to get out of California by April. The company will not comply with Gavin Newsom's environmental and green energy mandates and instead is willing to lose $1 billion to leave.
So we'll pause it there for a moment. This is a pretty big deal. We've seen companies leave California before. That was nothing new, but this, Joel, this is your home. Like,
Yeah, it is.
let's dive into it, man. Like, what's happening?
Same thing's been happening most of my life. You know, the tendency always is to focus on who's the governor and not take any heat off of my man Gavin. But this is California. This is the way it is. If Gavin Newsom were to step down today, the person replacing him would be just as bad, if not worse. I mean, the leading candidate is that lady who was caught screaming at her aide to get out of her effing shot.
Mm.
A few weeks ago. This is a horrible, horrible person, but she's basically next in line, and the machinery in Sacramento and San Francisco will put her in, or someone just as bad. This is paradise found, paradise lost, I guess is what you'd say. It's so, and you think about it, I can go out right now. This is a week before Christmas, and I went out at 8:30 last night and went over to our daughters to pick up a chair for something that our church was doing, and I didn't put a jacket on or anything, right? And there was no man to maneuver around. There was no ice to scrape off. Living, especially where I live in San Diego County, you can't get a better climate to live in and an easier place to live in, other than traffic. The traffic is traffic. I would much rather battle the traffic on Interstate 5 that goes through the whole state than try and maneuver around in a snow, an ice storm and deal with black ice. So,
good morning, Lucas.
Yeah, Lucas is here. Michael must have had really long. Man, I had him on my show yesterday. I couldn't get him to stop talking.
Oh, thank you, Lucas. I appreciate it. Yeah. So to catch you up, Lucas, here's the thing. Chevron is leaving California. They're moving their headquarters to Houston, Texas. And Valero will also be leaving. And
there's one more that he didn't get to.
Phillips
66. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
They'll be closing the LA refinery. So everyone listening and watching, this is Joel's home. Like, this has a direct impact on him. And we were talking before the show started. Since May, I visited a friend of mine who's stationed in California. He's in the Air Force. He's located at Travis Air Force Base. That's near Sacramento. Since I visited him and his wife in May, I've been sending him little photos of the gas prices that I see at the QT down the road. I've been an absolute jerk to him because it's been funny. It's like, hey, look at this, $2.69. And then recently, I got a photo of it being $2.16. And I was like, hey, greetings from Texas.
You're cruel, man. You're cruel.
Then I learned this, and I was like, man, I've been an absolute prick. I feel so bad now.
And notice how I'm not arguing with you about that. Oh, no.
But yeah, Joel, I mean, you've seen that full video. What key points did you take from all of this? Like, what things are really going to make an impact on you?
Well, obviously the gas prices, that Phillips 66 I was telling you, that is kind of part of my life. I grew up about 3 miles away from that up in LA. It's right there in the harbor. And every time you went on the freeway, you passed this huge refinery. And that's actually known as the Jack-o'-lantern refinery. Every Halloween, they have this big oil storage tank that looks like a pumpkin, shaped like a pumpkin. So every Halloween, they paint it orange and put a jack-o'-lantern face on it. It was, when I was a kid, that was, can I see the, drive by the refinery? I want to see the jack-o'-lantern face or whatever. So that's huge. For that refinery to close, I don't know what's going to happen to the area I grew up in. That's not to mention just the gas prices, just the economic impact. He was saying that the Valero closing up in Benicia, I don't even know where Benicia is, but for it to lose 30% of its whole budget, that's going to destroy a town. That won't happen in LA and the Wilmington area, but it'll be huge impact anyways. Excuse me. But the gas prices are the thing that's just it's already expensive enough to live here. And it's gotten more since previous, if I say 2019 to 2023, that 4-year period. prices here just absolutely skyrocketed. I wasn't, I was working full time most of the time until few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago. And then I finally started paying attention to what it is we're paying our cost of living here. And my wife was well aware of it, but I was not. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is, it's right now, it's barely livable. You can barely make it here as it is right now. But if gas prices double, I don't know what we're going to do, because that's just not just the price of gas you pay to get anywhere. It's everything that's brought by truck is going to skyrocket. Every person,
everything we touch is impacted by oil and gas.
Yeah.
Everything. Like back when I was a teacher, many of my students, I would teach government, and then now I would teach local government. And the topic of conversation always came back to economics. And to be clear, I'm not an economics expert. Like, I keep things simple for my kids to understand. But we talked about, oil and gas, and we talked about renewable energy. That topic always came up. And the school I taught at definitely leaned more towards the liberal side. But I always encourage my students to think for themselves, to just think for themselves, think outside the box. And every single time, initially, their mindset was, oh, green energy, renewable energy, solar, wind, cool. Hey, that feels good against the evil, dark oil and gas. But then I asked them, okay, let me ask you a question. Let's just say we took away oil and gas tonight. What would happen? And of course, their initial response would be, oh, well, we can just use the wind and solar and water, maybe even nuclear. Okay. But then I was like, okay, cool. What would happen? Well, and then they would start giving answers. And then I would remind them, you do realize that it's not just gas that you pay at the pump. It's your food prices. It's the cost of your phone. It's the cost of your electricity. It's the cost of your freaking YouTube subscription. Because think about it. Every single thing requires somebody to go somewhere and do something. That costs what?
Well, your Google search costs money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. I did a show a couple of weeks ago. About once a month, I hit on the topic of AI. And one of the things I was talking about is all the super computing centers, all the data centers that are going up. Okay. And on that, Lucas, can you translate that into gallons for us?
we use freedom units here in America.
Yes, we're Americans. We don't do liters. But in California, about 10 years ago, up the road from us is also San Onofre nuclear power plant that went out of service about 10 years ago. And then times by 4. Okay. Wow. Times by 4, huh? That's expensive gas.
I'll do the math. You can keep talking.
Okay. So that was a significant, supply reduction right there. Then earlier in this year, out in the desert here, we had a huge solar power plant where it has all these. If you drive through the Mojave Desert, all of a sudden you'd see this giant tower surrounded by all of these solar panels or mirror panels that would reflect energy up to this tower. It was famous for the exploding birds. Birds would fly around it, and the heat would just explode them. And it was supposed to be like the linchpin of this new green energy. Well, I think they were supposed to run for 25 years, and it closed up after 10 because it's just unworkable. It won't work. And for the environmentalists, for them to build that massive plant out in the desert, they killed an entire race of desert tortoise. It's gone. So the Sierra Club was mad. environmentalism mad. Now we don't have the green people were happy, but it was a mixed bag at best. But
So
then they
real
found out
quick-
it just is. So we have all this power demand, and the supply is diminishing.
right.
And then throw in the power needs for AI. If AI takes over, it's going to need massive amounts of power.
Right. Real
Google
quick,
is buying. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the math. And this is on the low end. 1.30 times 4 is 520. That's 520 on the low end per
Wow.
liter. And then
Per gallon.
Well, per gallon, yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the metro area, in the high end, 2.25 times 4.
That's $9.
Nine per gallon. That is crazy, Lucas. Wow. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I had to just say that real quick.
Okay, well, I'm going to start sending my pictures of my gas prices up to Lucas just to be mean
Bro.
like you.
I need to lay down after reading that.
Yeah, that's tough. But I don't know how much they drive up there. But in Southern California, you got to remember how much we drive. I mean, driving is
Right.
part of life around here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
there is no
Well,
subway you can get on. There's no metro. They had this idea 20 years ago to do a high-speed rail, which everybody voted for in 2008. And it hasn't even, track hasn't even been laid 15, 16 years later.
Here's the thing too. Like, when I visited my friend in California in Sacramento, like physically the place is beautiful. We went to some vineyards. It was really cool. Like the weather was great. It's just, it felt like the Gilded Age. Everything looks pretty on the outside, but there is this rot underneath.
Yeah.
That is the Gilded Age. And then, so moving to Texas, like, let's be clear, Texas also has the problems. If you go out west, you have massive, the oil industry dominates Texas. That's pretty clear.
Right.
But when you go out west, you're going to see endless fields of wind farms. And so, you can hear people make arguments for them. But if you've seen the show Landman, really good show, by the way. I have a connection to this because I'm in the power industry now. All those wind farms do nothing. In the big scheme of things, they do absolutely nothing. Because here's the deal. What happens when they stop working? What happens? They literally are taken apart and they are buried. They can't be recycled. They are literally buried in the ground. Ironically, where do we get all the oil and gas? From the freaking ground.
Right.
So do I acknowledge that there's been problems with oil and gas in the past? Of course there has. I'm not saying there hasn't been any problems. But wind farms, solar farms, like on the large scale, like you mentioned, they do way more detriment to the land than oil and gas do.
Yeah. Our new son-in-law, he's one of the jobs he has a couple times he's gone to fix windmill blades in the Midwest. And you have to have special ropes certifications. And he's one of these crazy guys that goes to Yosemite, climbs El Capitan and sleeps on a little hammock on the side. I'm like, no fear at all. But so that's what it takes to fix one. If something happens to him, I don't know. But even then, he was in like somewhere in Iowa, Cloud City, Iowa, or something like that. And half the time they couldn't work on it because of the weather. So, and half the time the wind doesn't blow. What happens when the wind doesn't blow? And we have this in California too. If you drive out to Palm Springs from where we are, you pass thousands of windmills, and they're 150, 200 feet high, and 90% of them aren't moving. Only 10% of them are actually turning. So,
the thing is, this obviously can affect countless Californians. And this might be the moment, the catalyst that forces many of them to be like, we're done. Because let's not forget, before the election in November, what's the biggest thing that brought Americans together to vote for Trump? Gas and food. If I can't buy gas, if I can't afford eggs, nothing else matters. There's really nothing else that's important anymore.
Right.
And so, here we are. But we're not just patriots here, we're also Christians. And that's way more important. The verse for today is Ecclesiastes 3:1. This is kind of a long one, but it does a great job at providing that routine reality check. Because this may not even be comfortable to read, but it's reality. It's the truth. And basically it says, there is an appointed time for everything. And there is a time for every matter under heaven. Joel, if you could just choose a few of these, and then I'll choose a few.
Oh, okay. Time to give birth. I'll just do the first half. You can do the second half. How's that?
Okay.
A time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance.
There's a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. There's a time to embrace and a time to shun embracing, a time to search and a time to give up as lost. There's a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear apart and sew together, a time to be silent and then a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, and a time for war, and there's also a time for peace. If you're not picking up what we're putting down, here's the deal. There is a time for everything, even the things that don't seem to be, Christian. There's a time to kill. There is a time to hate. There is a time to tear apart. And there's a time to throw stones. But for this topic, if there comes a point in everyone's life when things happen outside of your control that are going to make a huge impact on your families, it's like when you go before God and say, what do I do? Understand that this could be a time to mourn. This could be a time to tear down. And this also could be a time to uproot. If you've been in California most of your life, or whatever, this might be a signal from your king to do something about it. Or, to be fair, it might be a time to stay put and fight for those around you. It's there. You won't get firm answers from this channel, Patriots. But what you can get is the firm promise that God is in charge, Christ is king. Nothing else matters beyond that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joel, from your experience, your time living in California, what parts of this verse really stick with you for this subject?
Well, you're always in a time of something, right? There's no normal. There certainly hasn't been a normal in my life for a long time. And I have our pastor at our church now. He talks about all the people that want to leave California. And because a lot of people we know have. But he says, what kind of soldier leaves? And I've said this before. His thing is, what kind of soldier leaves the battlefield right when the battle is engaged? So his take is, hey, we're here for a reason. God has Christians in California for a reason. And of course, like I always say, I went up to him after the service and said, okay, Pastor, I get it. Right. Because my wife and we've looked at other properties in other states because we're like everybody else. The math is eventually not going to add up. And, math, you can't get away from math. Right.
Right.
But I went to him and I said, okay, Pastor, if I stay and fight on the battlefield, what kind of general are you going to be? Are you going to be the kind of general that leans into the fight also? Or are you going to be the kind of general like the last church we had that just gives up and goes to the other side? Because that happens more often than not. So yeah, but even if we did move out and go to another state, there'd still be a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time, to keep into time to throw away, whatever it is. We just have the real problem in California is it's California itself, and like I said, no matter how bad it gets here, the people that make it bad will still be elected to office. It's just the way it is. And like I said, California is divided not by north and south; it's by east and west. Along the coast of California is loony. It's Looneyville. It really is. The people in Pacific Palisades that had their homes burned down by the total neglect of the state and the city will still vote for the same. They'll still vote the same way. They'll still vote for the same people and policies that cost them their homes. Right. It's just kind of the way it is. So, we're supposed to be salt and light. What good does it be salt and light in a place that's already seasoned and has lots of light, right? If you're going to be salt and light, if you're going to be light, you need to be in a dark place. Otherwise your light is not, is not effective. And, nothing's worse than a meal with too much salt, right? So if you go to a place, that's to your liking and has people that are just like you and believe the same, I mean, that's great. And it'd be nice. It has a lot of appeal for someone like me. But at the same time, maybe that's not why God put us here.
It's and let's be clear too. It's like I love Texas. I've always loved this state. The state's history is really fascinating, but Texas still has its problems too. I mean, Austin exists. That in itself is a huge problem in my eyes. Just Dallas existing is a big problem, but that's just my personal opinion. But like, no state is perfect. In every state, you have your own problems. The question is, what level of problems are you comfortable dealing with? And since 2020 to now, it just seems like this is just one more thing that's causing Californians to really hurt. And, on one hand, I totally respect what your pastor was saying. That makes complete sense. On the other hand, if you cannot fulfill your duty as a husband to provide for your family where you live, then what's more important? Your divine duty as a husband, or you just sticking it out hoping for the best? I'm not putting this towards you. I'm just saying, there's always that debate,
Yeah, you might as well be. I'm a lifetime Californian. This is my home.
Sure. And I respect that.
Yeah. And I don't know that, if I had one of those, I don't know if I could live through one of those ice storms you guys had periodically,
True. We have learned from it, but that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I said, no place is perfect. But for now we're here for a reason, but yeah, we will be evaluating once again. We're going to have to revisit this on whether or not what we can do. Can we live here?
So bottom line, patriots, Christians, there is a time for everything. And I hope that this holiday season can remind you of what those times are. I'll just make the assumption that we're not meeting next Friday, right?
I don't think so.
All right, sir. Well, everyone have a great day. God's in charge.
Have a Merry Christmas too.
Absolutely, Paige. It's a
Probably
wonderful
see you
day.
after the new year, I'm sure. So
Yeah. Everyone, take care.
hey, it's Joel here. If you enjoyed this, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you disagree or have a different thought, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching.